My name is Josh Linkner, and I'm so excited to be joining the fun at the Dscoop7 in Washington, D.C. this coming March 22nd through 24th. What I'm excited to talk about is creativity, which is one of the most important skills that we need in order to win in just about every organization today. I want to start out by giving you a little test. Maybe you could answer this question. Which company has a mission statement that goes something like this? To organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. Well, I'm sure you guessed it. It's Google. Well, now here's a little trickier question. Which company basically had that same mission statement for 219 years in a row before Google was even founded? Well, if you dug real deep, I bet you guessed it, Encyclopedia Britannica. They were the Google of their day. In fact, I wonder if 100 years ago people were running around saying, hey, let me get right back to you. I need to grow Britannica that. Anyway, this was a cool company. I mean, they were in the information age a century before the Industrial Revolution. Very sophisticated people, smart, intelligent team members. Everything was going great for them until they became completely dislodged by a devastating blow of innovation. Microsoft comes along, digitizes the encyclopedia, and things had changed forever. In fact, despite all their power and all their strength, Encyclopedia Britannica, while they're still in business today, never truly recovered. So Microsoft goes on and becomes the dominant source of information in the world. And as we know, Microsoft has more money than most small countries. Hugely successful, amazing team, complete worldwide distribution. So everything's going great once again, but again, a pattern emerges. A dose of devastating innovation comes along, and even powerful Microsoft falls. In this case, to a startup, a non-profit startup nonetheless. So Wikipedia takes over, and Microsoft, with all their power and all their might, ended up shutting down Encarta altogether in 2009. Who will dislodge Wikipedia? We can hardly imagine it, but it's likely to happen. What we see is a pattern. Companies that embrace change, that embrace innovation, that always are fostering creativity and imagining a better way are the ones that win. While those organizations that rest on their laurels suffer greatly. And you think about the challenges that we have today. Today, the world is very different than it was just a few short years ago. In 2008, the financial crisis symbolized more than just a market correction. What it showed us is that the rules of the game have fundamentally changed forever. We can no longer rely on the models of the past in order to win. Today, we need an entirely new set of attributes and assets to conquer the very difficult challenges that we face. And if you think about today we live in a world of dizzying speed, exponential complexity, and ruthless competition. So in order to win, what we need more than ever is creativity. In fact, creativity has become the currency of success. It's the one thing that can't be outsourced. It's the one truly sustainable competitive advantage that organizations can maintain. Unfortunately, most organizations don't see it, and they're subject to startups that come along and eat their lunch. Back in 2008, right in the eye of the storm, my friends in Chicago launched GROUPON. Today, with over 10,000 employees and over $13 billion of market value, this company completely changed the game. Well, you might be saying, well, what if I'm not a .com company? Well, I'm from Detroit, and right in our own backyard, Ford Motor Company. They were facing the same seemingly insurmountable challenges as their competitors. But when the others went running for bankruptcy protection, Ford doubled down on innovation. And today, they're enjoying record profits as a result. The challenge that many of us face, though, is that we're so busy being heads down in the challenges of the day, we fail to see the opportunities to innovate. Problem is when you're heads down, you fail to see what's going on. You fail to see new trends. You fail to see what your competitors are up to. So one of the things I would suggest is that we need to spend a lot more time being heads up. Time noticing things, giving ourselves and our colleagues time and permission to unleash our true creative potential. Well, creativity is an obvious need. In fact, there was a study done recently where 1,500 CEOs across 31 countries were asked, what's the single most important attribute for leadership success in the next 5 years? Turns out creativity won by a landslide. In any event, despite the obvious need for more creativity and innovation, we're facing a big problem. And that problem, unfortunately, is that our creativity is declining. Rather than rising to meet the challenges of the day, we're going in the opposite direction. Newsweek did a cover story calling it the creativity crisis, and tests that measure creativity in kids have been on the rise since the 50s, but over the last 15 years ago, they dramatically declined. So what's happening is that kids start out creative. Again, you put a bunch of kids in a room with toys and art supplies, they'll play for hours with endless imagination. You put us adults in that same room, we're checking our BlackBerries in 45 seconds. So over time, our schools, our systems, and our bureaucracies, they actually beat it out of us. And we become grumpy adults. So instead of growing into creativity, we're doing the opposite. We're growing out of it. Now, despite all these challenges that we're facing, there's some really good news. In 2008, Harvard University ran a study, and they asked the age-old question, is creativity born or is it developed? Here's what they found. Creativity, in fact, is 85% learned behavior, which is incredible news because that shows that creativity isn't just for 1 out of 1,000 people that were born that way. We all have enormous creative capacity. The challenge is that most of us adults just haven't developed those skills. It doesn't matter what your job title is. Today, everybody's job requires creativity. The thing is that the world has become so fast and so complex that there's no longer such a thing as an operating manual to follow that will lead us to reach our full potential. In fact, to win today as an organization or even as an individual, we need to be constantly innovating in real time, constantly adapting to new changes that are happening constantly in our entire environment. Well, I have some background as a jazz musician. And I'll tell you, jazz is a lot like business because there's a lot of ambiguity and there's a lot of times where you need to make stuff up as you go. In fact, when I go to play a jazz gig, 99% of the notes that I play are improvised. They're made up in real time. But there is a written page. There's 1% that on this page that gives the musicians some structure, some scaffolding, and it basically enables their creativity rather than restricts it. The thing is, I realized that in the business world, while we have systems and processes for just about everything, there are no such systems for creativity. In most organizations, creativity either happens by chance or it falls under such rigid structures that it kicks out bland, vanilla, ho-hum ideas. So my obsession with creativity led me to write the book Disciplined Dreaming, a proven system to drive breakthrough creativity. What I did was not only relying on my own experiences as a 4-time entrepreneur, venture capitalist, and jazz musician, I also had the privilege of interviewing over 200 thought leaders. I interviewed artists, musicians, nonprofit leaders, educators, executives, billionaires, entrepreneurs, even military leaders. And I've tried to boil all their collective wisdom down into a simple, step-by-step process to unleash creative capacity for both individuals and organizations. The research from the book and a lot of fun examples and stories is exactly what I look forward to covering with you at the Dscoop7 event in Washington, D.C. this coming March. I'm very comfortable to say that folks in the audience will feel energized, they'll feel excited, and they'll feel empowered to unleash their creative capacity. Let's face it, in 2012, there are lots of challenges, but there's also incredible opportunity. I hope that I'll be able to share with you some very specific techniques that will allow you to unleash your creative potential, let your imagination soar, and seize that enormous opportunity that's waiting for us all here in 2012. Can't wait to see you then, and thanks so much.